come to the construction contracts bill. When we were last debating this bill, Ian Lees-Galloway was speaking on part 2, and he has 2 minutes and 12 seconds remaining.
Chairman.
Phil Twyford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're back into the construction contracts amendment bill, dealing with part 2, and looking forward to some good detailed dialogue with the Minister and the Chair on this, because there's some very meaty parts in this bill, particularly around retentions, which I'm looking forward to getting into. And I can see the Minister's very interested in the subject of retentions. It's a little ironical that in a week when the National Government is proposing to bring back leaky buildings 2.0 in the form of allowing builders to self-certify their work, one of the more loopy recommendations from Paula Bennett's Rules Reduction Task Force, it's ironic that we're dealing with the subject of construction projects that go belly up, because there's a very strong connection between the many difficulties that the construction industry has faced over the last couple of decades, with regard to of which leaky homes is probably the biggest, and the subject of construction companies that end badly, and the example that is that comes to mind most strongly is Mainzeal, of course. One of, I think, it was the second largest New Zealand construction company that went belly up a couple of years ago, taking with it a lot of creditors' money, and left many hundreds, if not thousands, of subcontractors hanging. In fact, it was awful to see so many subcontractors basically lost their tools as a number of work sites around the country were boarded up. So this bill, I think, is overdue. It's been hanging around for quite some time now, and it's been through an interesting process that I think we want to touch on as we get into this question of retentions in part 2. We support this bill. We think it's overdue. We wish it had come to the House earlier, actually. And Clayton Cosgrove, the Labor spokesperson on building and construction, who couldn't be with us today, actually did some really good work developing policy proposals in the wake of the Mainzeal collapse that I want to talk about. And there's a supplementary order paper on the table by Clayton Cosgrove, and another one by Julianne Genter. And what I'd like to do is kind of tease out the content of those SOPs, because what's happened in the progress of this bill is that the Minister, Nick Smith, the Building and Construction Minister, started off saying that this bill would not be dealing with the issue of retentions, that it was unnecessary. And in fact, the bill from the Select Committee that we've got, the report from the Select Committee actually says, it notes under retentions, that this is a matter of growing concern in the sector, and perhaps I should explain a bit more about what retentions are. Retentions are a portion of the contract price that is withheld by the head contractor or the developer until the work is complete. And it's the whole idea of it is it's there to be held onto until the work is completed and found to be free of defects, and then the payment is made to the subcontractors. And as everybody knows, the way we build, and not only houses but industrial and commercial projects in New Zealand, is that there's a principal who's responsible for the whole project. There's the head contractor and a plethora of subcontractors. So the problem that this bill is setting out to solve, and particularly this issue of retentions, is hugely important for everybody really who works in the construction industry. And as the Select Committee noted, Mr. Chairman, the issue of retentions was not in the original scope of this bill. And the Minister expressed the view that the issue wasn't necessary, but he changed his position. He said originally said there was no issue around security of payment and retentions, and then he said that he was actively exploring remedies, Mr Chairman, on these two issues.
Point of order, Tim McIntyre.
Mr Chair, with the agreement of all the